How does a professional tuba player with credits ranging from a comic musical dance troupe to the Boston Pops with no background in medicine go on to become a pioneering transplant surgeon?
I just decided I'd be a transplant surgeon. I was a little disappointed to find out that I had to go to medical school because it sounded like a lot of work.
In the 1970s, successful organ transplants were headline-worthy, and Kirk was drawn to that pinnacle of medical achievement.
To take an organ out of somebody and put it in somebody else and make it work, that's a pretty big process.
So he left Boston University of Fine Arts during his sophomore year, earned a bachelor's degree in biology at Old Dominion, and came to Duke for medical school, internship, residency, and a PhD. While here, he published his first paper on the unusual case of accidental toothbrush swallowing, a paper that gained him more attention than he imagined, landing him interviews on NPR and The Howard Stern Show. He then focused on more scholarly pursuits. To pay for medical school, he received a health professions scholarship from the U.S. Navy. While a resident, he developed interest in the fundamental nature of transplant rejection, working on his PhD with Bernard Amos and Olya Finn, and developed his interest in novel means of preventing rejection through collaborations with the Navy Medical Research Institute. During his fellowship and collaboration with the Navy, he published a major paper on co-stimulation biology. That success launched a major initiative at the NIH called the Immune Tolerance Network.
I owe an enormous amount of what I have become to the Navy. They allowed me to pursue my training to its fullest before coming back into the Navy.
Most of Kirk's Navy research was performed as a researcher and surgeon at the National Institutes of Health and Walter Reed Medical Center. His seminal achievements include being on the team that in 1997 became the first to show that organ rejection in primates could be prevented solely by manipulating a single co-stimulation pathway that induced a lasting acceptance of a mismatched organ. He was the first surgeon to use a transgenic xenograft in humans using genetically manipulated pig liver to keep a patient alive until a human liver could be found.
And nothing at the time had even come close to that.
That work earned Kirk an interview on Good Morning America.
Julia Roberts was the other guest. I didn't get to meet her, so it wasn't that great.
Most recently, Kirk has discovered a method that blocks molecules that result in organ rejection and decreases the frequency of immunosuppressant drugs post-surgery.
We're now doing trials where some of my patients take a single medication once every 2 months, and that's the only medication they take for a transplant.
For his interview to get into Duke, Kirk's father encouraged him to wear a specific tie clip that had a tuba on it.
My father realized that I had no idea what I was doing when I was trying to go to medical school.
The interview started with the realization that all of Kirk's recommendations were from members of the Boston Symphony.
And they looked at my tie pin and said, "You're a tuba player." And I said, "Well, yes, I am." And then we talked about tuba playing for 20 minutes, and I got into medical school.
Kirk came to Duke during the era of legendary Department of Surgery chair David Sabiston.
I always said he made me a much better surgeon than I had ever considered being.
He also cites surgeon Randy Bollinger as an important mentor. Kirk returned to Duke in 2014 as chair of the Department of Surgery. Kirk and his wife Robin met in the 6th grade and had their first date in 7th grade.
It wasn't a great date. We went roller skating. She locked herself in the bathroom. I skated alone.
They have a son, Eric, and a daughter, Shannon. Kirk says that following in the footsteps of the great David Sabiston as chair of the Department of Surgery is an honor.
I don't know that there is another place like Duke. And I'm really glad I'm back here, and I'm looking forward to contributing as best I can.